Welcome to the Speak Your Piece podcast. My name is Ian McNaughton, Big E. Thank you very much for joining. Greatly appreciated. It's Tuesday, November 12th, which in French, it's Tuesday, Mardi? Lundi, Mardi, Mercredi. No, I'm missing one here. French dates of the week. I'm already on my phone in the middle of the pod, which is not good. Mardi. Yeah, Mardi. I said Mardi. Didn't I say Mardi? Lundi, Mardi, Mercredi, Jeudi, Vendredi, Samedi, Dimanche. Nailed it. And then in 12 in French is un, deux, trois, quatre, cinq, six, sept, huit, neuf, dix, onze, douze. Douze? Lundi, November, douze. Something like that. Anyways, thank you very much for joining. We are doing this Tuesday afternoon. It's not evening, it's still afternoon. I'm just changing my lighting here so that, I have this light over there that I feel like it is a big bright spot and kind of annoying. I also have like a light up here that I feel like if you could tell, kind of annoying. So I'm like toning it down, making myself a little bit more front and center and not having distractions with lights. So not that I really want to quote Trump, but that meme or the video of him being like, it's too bright, turn those lights off. And it's like any athlete whenever they perform poorly in the clutch, like Mitch Marner in the playoffs, where it's like, turn it off, turn it down, get those lights off. That's kind of me today with the podcast, just trying something new, trying something different. We got a good episode coming up today. It's Tuesday. We're doing this the day after Remembrance Day or Veterans Day, wherever it is you celebrate. Although I don't know if, because in Canada I believe everything's closed. Like banks are usually closed. We had days off from school because it was Remembrance Day. I don't know if it's like that in the States. I feel like the States is like things were open. I don't know. We'll get into it. We got a bit of hockey, a little bit of football, a little bit of NBA, and we got a sicko mode watch tonight. That's what we got. Some sicko mode games that we're going to talk about. So let's start with hockey. The Carolina Hurricanes. They were coming off a big win yesterday. Monday they beat the Vegas Golden Knights 5-2. They scored 4 goals in the first period against Vegas. That's not anything to dismiss. That's pretty impressive considering how good we all think Vegas is. But also, it's how good we think Carolina is. And I know a lot of people like the Hurricanes. They are a talented team with a lot of talented players. Sebastian Ahos of the world, the forwards, not the D-men. Teuvo Teravainen. They have the Brett Pesce's. He is still a Hurricane, right? I know Pesce might have left because they had some changes in the offseason. I hope I said. Pesce's with the Devils. They still have good, they got Sean Walker. Slavin, I think, is still on the team. Or maybe he left too. Brady Shea's gone. Anyways, point is, the Hurricanes are really good. Freddie Anderson is doing well. Their defense is good. They're well coached by Rod Brind'Amour. My issue with the Hurricanes, it's very similar to the Maple Leafs in that I don't really care how good Carolina does in the regular season. I don't think it really matters. Because what really matters to me is how well they do in the playoffs. We've seen the Hurricanes do really well in the regular season. That's not a problem. They can get to the playoffs. They can win 50 games in the regular season. They can get home ice advantage in the first round and then probably beat the Islanders again. Cool, great, whatever. But for Carolina, it should be about winning a title, and I think it is. I don't think anybody, if you ask anybody within the Hurricanes organization, I don't think they, are telling lies. I don't think they're, bullshitting. I believe they would tell you it's title or bust. A lot of those guys, want to win a title. A lot of those guys haven't really had, they can win a first round. They haven't got to a conference final yet. Or did they against... They maybe did it 2 years. Point is, they haven't been to a finals. This core group has not been to a finals. They have not been to the finals since 2006 when they lost, or when they beat Edmonton, excuse me. So the point with Carolina, it's similar to the Leafs. The Leafs are obviously discussed more. They obviously have, higher profiles on the roster with Matthews and Marner. And, obviously we like Aho, we like Teravainen, we like Martin Necas, we like, Seth Jarvis. We like all those guys. All those guys are great. And maybe Jarvis maybe gets a little bit more leniency because he hasn't been there the entire time. He is one of the younger guys, but now he's getting paid big bucks. Like, now he's getting paid real dollars to contribute and to be a contributor. So it's really on Brendan Moore. It's on those core guys. It's on Freddie Anderson, Peter Kochetkov. Like, it's on those guys to do it. And we could talk about how great, last night's win over Vegas is. Again, it is impressive, not for nothing. It's an impressive win. Going into Vegas, winning scoring 4 goals in the first period, winning 5-2, that's not nothing. But what means more to the Carolina Hurricanes is having playoff success and winning a cup. And I'm not all that interested in how well Carolina does in the regular season because we've seen them have regular season success. That's not the difficult part. I'm happy to give teams praise for doing well in the regular season, but they've done it before. They've been doing it for years. This isn't a one-off thing. This isn't just, you find a random $10 bill in your coat pocket. It's like, oh, cool, great. No, this is like they've done this before. This is a consistent thing. But can this year be the year that they break that consistent theme of flopping in the playoffs and do well and actually represent the Eastern Conference in the finals? That's my takeaway with the Carolina Hurricanes. So I'm sorry if that sounded harsh, if that was a bit extreme, but that's just how I feel about them. It's very Maple Leafs-esque. It's very much I'm not really worried about your regular season success. I'm not, and I don't know that Carolina, like they made some moves in the offseason, they made some roster changes in the offseason. I don't know that they would get rid of Teravainen or Necas or Aho. I don't know that they would move on from any of those guys. That's their core, similar to Toronto. I just don't know. I think it's probably too early to tell. I don't know how they necessarily get better or how they improve. But again, at the same time, if you're crazy if you keep doing the same thing and expect different results. So there you go. Carolina, the Canes. That's my Carolina talk. The other takeaway from Monday night, if you were watching NHL hockey, the Pittsburgh Penguins are bad. Penguins are not good. They gave up 6 goals to the Dallas Stars in the first period. I think they lost 7-1, 7-2 was the final score in Pittsburgh last night against Dallas. And I think we all knew that Pittsburgh probably wasn't going to be great. They probably were not going to be a good team this year. It's not surprising. Giving up 6 at home to the Stars in the first period, very much not good. Not great at all. So I think with Pittsburgh, I don't know that you trade Crosby, Malkin, Letang. I don't think you trade the core. I don't think you could trade Carlson because you traded for Carlson 2 years ago, and you're going to trade him for 40 cents on the dollar. At that point, is it even worth it? You might as well just keep the guy so you have him. Maybe you're selling more jerseys. I got his, Tim Hortons card here, so, maybe it becomes valuable one day. But, I mean, I don't know. Like, I just don't, I don't see why trading Malkin, Letang, and Carlson, and Crosby, and I don't think they're trading any of those guys, but I don't know why trading those guys would make them better. I think it's the rest of the team that stinks. Their goaltending has not been very good this year. Joel Blomqvist has been, I think, the best goalie this year. Their defense has been poor, to say the least, and you could blame Carlson and Letang, I guess, but, like, I don't understand, like, you're not going to get a better deal than Malkin at 6.9 or whatever he's making. Like, he is making very much less than what he should be, what his market value is. Same with Crosby. Now, Karlsson, he's making like $10 million. Sure, totally, I understand if you're trying to get rid of that dollar figure. I don't know who is going to take that on. That's for Kyle Dubas to figure out. But even so, like, if you look at the Penguins roster, and I did this last night, but this was after quite a few Miller Lights. So I'll do this while I am sober and have my emotional support coffee with me. So according to Puckpedia, the Penguins have a projected negative $545,718. So they're going to have to make a move here at some point before the end of the season. Their current cap space is $183,281. They don't have a second-round pick this year because they traded it in the Mike Hoffman trade. You got it. You nailed it. And if you're wondering which was this Mike Hoffman trade, Mike Hoffman was traded from Montreal to Pittsburgh, and then Pittsburgh essentially just released him. Like, they just bought him out because they didn't want Mike Hoffman. So it was a stupid, silly trade. Crosby's making 8.7. He's probably not going to go anywhere. I don't see Crosby going anywhere. I mean, he signed for 3 more seasons, including this one, so 2 after this. He's 37. Evgeny Malkin is 38. He is under contract for this year and next year at 6.1. He might just walk. Maybe you trade him. You trade him next year. That might be the move with Malkin, finding a deal that he likes and trade him next year. Brian Rust is not a free agent until 2028. He is making 5.13. That's not great. I don't know anybody that's taking him on. Rickard Rakell is a free agent in 2028. He is making $5 million a year for the next 4 years. I don't know anybody that's taking that deal on. Noah Chari might have some play at $2 million for this year and next year. I was going to say Anthony Beauvillier for 1.25, but he's been out there. He's been available for teams, and nobody's really taken him on. There's a slightly used Jesse Puljujarvi for $800,000 this season. Somebody might take a flyer on him, give a fourth, and maybe take a run at Puljujarvi. The issue with him is that he's a UFA. You don't have any more RFA rights. Karlsson's making $10 million a year. Terrible. Letang, he's making 6.1. He's a UFA in 2028. Ryan Graves is 29 years old, and he's making $4.5 million until 2029. I don't know anybody who's taking these contracts on. Like, the most desirable contract probably right now, outside of like Crosby and Malkin, because Crosby and Malkin, they have leverage, they have final say in wherever they're going. The actual contract, the most valuable contract that they could probably get rid of is Bloomquist, because I feel like there's enough teams that would take a flyer on a 22-year-old goalie for $887,000 for the next 2 years, and he has, I wonder if Puckpedia has stats. For a guy who's had a .904 save percentage in 8 games, there's enough teams that would maybe take a flyer if Pittsburgh wants to move on from him, if they think they can get a good enough deal. I don't know. I just don't. I think if you're Pittsburgh, you're just riding this out because you are at the mercy of Crosby, Malkin, Letang, Karlsson. You're at their mercy. You do whatever they want to do. If you're Kyle Dubas, you can make any sort of you can make changes to the rest of the roster. You can try and make improvements around those guys. And those guys are fine, like Crosby and Malkin and Letang and Karlsson. Karlsson's way overpaid, but for what you're getting Crosby and Malkin and Letang for, you can't complain too much, honestly. So, just ride it out, tank. And if those guys don't want to tank, if those guys don't want to, fall with the ship, if they don't want to sink with the ship, then you can look for moves elsewhere. That's I think how that goes. You're not looking to I think if you're Kyle Dubas, you're not looking to actively ship those 4 guys. If those 4 guys come to you, one of them or all 4 of them, however they go about it, You're then at that point just being like, all right, if you guys want to trade, we'll trade you, but I'm not going to do it unless you tell me to. That's how I feel like I would do it if you're Kyle Dubas. The rest of the team, I don't think there isn't really any great trade assets. I don't like Tristan Jarry being under contract for $5.38 till 2028. Matt Grzelcyk at $2.75 for just this year, so he's going to be a rental, I would think, for somebody. Drew O'Connor, 26. He's getting $925K this year. He's going to be a rental. He's a UFA next year. I don't know. Yeah, you see, like I just don't know what Pittsburgh. And, I'll be honest. This is the trade-off that the city of Pittsburgh has to make when Russell Wilson is the starting quarterback in your city and he's throwing moonshots for touchdowns. That's it. That's pretty much why this is happening. It's either you have a really good football team that's 7-2 and your quarterback is throwing beautiful 40-yard deep bombs for touchdowns, or you have a good hockey team. Think about this. Russell Wilson played in a city for most of his prime that didn't have an NHL team. So it was a fair trade-off for Seattle. Now they have a hockey team that's okay, and the football team is also okay, but better than a hockey team. So, but you get to see Geno, throw touchdowns, throw bombs all over the place. That's the thing with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, you guys get to have the Steelers, so don't worry about the Penguins. The Steelers are good. I will say, switching over a little bit. Oh, I should just finalize on the Pittsburgh thing. They're screwed, and Crosby and Malkin, Letang, Carlson, they can go to Dubas and be like, hey, I want out of here, I want to trade, and Dubas can go find something. And if they don't ask for a trade, I think you just keep them and you hold them on to them and let them sink with the ship, and they can just rebuild and get, I don't know, top prospects for the next little while. Yeah, that's the takeaway there. Good games tonight, by the way. It's for Tuesday night. It is fascinating that we get a Canadian doubleheader of Sens Leafs and Canucks Flames, which I don't know if that Leafs Sens game is in Toronto or if it's in Ottawa. Let's take a look. Sens at Leafs tonight, and then Flames at Canucks. That's a really good doubleheader. It's a really fun one. Islanders playing the Oilers. Jets playing the Rangers. Jets Rangers might be a conference or cup final. Might be a Stanley Cup final preview. Devils Panthers. Good game tonight. Yeah, really really fun games going on tonight. If you're into that. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Is it Lekkerimäki? I need a Canucks fan to come on here and tell me how to properly pronounce his name. But their first round pick, Lekkerimäki, is going to be making his NHL debut tonight. So that's cool. Yeah, I'm excited for that. Two really good games. Two games I am the most interested in tonight. Sens Leafs, Flames Canucks. Good Canadian doubleheader. I should also say, this is my last thing with the NHL. I talked about Pittsburgh a little bit. They're playing the Red Wings on Wednesday, and as a Red Wings fan, I am totally cool if they fire Lalonde if the Red Wings can't beat Pittsburgh tomorrow. Straight up. That's totally fine by me. The Red Wings have been no bueno this season. Penguins have been even worse, and if you lose to a team that's even worse than you, if you lose to the team that loses 7-1, 7-2 on Monday, gave up 6 goals in the first period, you can fire your coach. You are fine. That is okay. Not a problem. I understand. There is still some season left to salvage. So I thought I'd just throw that out there now because I might talk about it on Friday when I do another pod. But yeah, it's not great right now for the Red Wings. I think they got shut out by the Rangers on Saturday. That was tough. They have a fairly easy schedule for the rest of the month. They got to do their California swing here coming up, so they should win 2 games. They should take 2 of 3 from that. So yeah, that's my, I guess, big hot take is that Lalonde should be fired if the Red Wings can't be the Penguins on Wednesday. Stick around, don't go anywhere. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to be discussing some NFL after the break. All right, welcome back. NFL finished up their week last night, Monday Night Football. Rams played the Dolphins in what was just a fucking boring game. Neither team looked like they wanted to win it. Neither team looked all that impressive, which is also concerning considering the Seahawks the Seahawks lost to the Rams the week prior, and it's like, if we can't beat that team, and Matt Stafford was all over the place yesterday, then that's a concern. The Seahawks beat the Dolphins earlier in the year, but that was without Tua, and I guess the Dolphins looked better with Tua than without, but they did not look great either. The big game I really want to talk about, I talked about Ravens-Bengals last Thursday. That was a great game. Sunday Night Football with the Lions and Texans was incredible. I will say personally, do not like the Texans uniforms. Not a fan. They look arena football-y to me. That might be a hot take. I don't like the helmet. And I think they're trying to do, I don't know if they were trying to do, I don't know if it's horns or whatever. You know how the Texans logo looks? I don't know if they're trying to do that with the shoulder. It didn't look great. I don't know. And especially compared to the Lions uniforms. I like the Lions uniforms a lot. So it was kind of an eyesore looking at the Houston jersey uniform combination. Anyways, Lions are good. Lions played their hearts out really after Goff threw 5 interceptions. They were down, 19-3 at halftime. The Lions were down at the half, came back, won the game thanks to Jake Bates, former Michigan Panther. That's what they're called in the UFL. I was trying to think of that off the top of my head. Bates used to play for the Michigan Panthers in the United Football League, which is the spring league, which was used to be the XFL or then the USFL, and then they combined to make the UFL, and basically he was kicking in the spring league this past year, and then he's got a job with the Lions, and he made 2 huge field goals that were a combined 3 inches from hitting the upright, and he nailed it. What are we in? We're in week 11 now, I think. And I'm going to be honest, I think there's only 4 teams. I've been kind of workshopping this, been theorizing, and I have come to the conclusion there's just 4 teams who have a shot at winning the Super Bowl this year. Those 4 teams are the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens, and the Lions. Those are the 4 teams who I think reasonably have a shot at winning the Super Bowl. I don't think the Texans do. The Texans were interesting watching them in prime time against a contender like the Lions, and it felt like they just ran out of steam. It felt like they were a boxer, and they won the first 3 of the first 4 rounds. They were making ground, they were covering their punches, they were holding their own, and then as they got into the later rounds, they got fatigued, they got sloppy, they couldn't managed to keep up. They were just slowing down, and the Lions eventually took advantage, and that's how they got the win. I know that the Texans don't have Diggs. I don't know if he's coming back this year. I have to double check. They still have a really good receiving core. They're still uber talented on that team. They have an outstanding quarterback, and kudos to, I'm going to butcher his first name, but Slovic, who is their offensive coordinator. He's a really smart guy, but I just found that they got sloppy, they got fatigued, they just could not play a full 60-minute game against the Lions. They couldn't take advantage of Detroit's missed opportunities, and at that level you have to. You cannot, be gifted 5 interceptions and not do anything with them. So I think right now, on November 12th, I'm going to say it. There are one of these four teams are winning the Super Bowl this year, and that is the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens, or the Lions. I don't think the Niners are all that great. They felt very sloppy on Sunday against Tampa Bay. There seems to be some tension. I don't know if you saw Deebo Samuel. He kind of shoved his kicker Jake Moody in the face after Moody missed 3 field goals before kicking the game winner on Sunday. I think the Vikings have a formula. I don't think it's sustainable. I don't think it's gonna last. They did not look all that good against the Jags. They beat the Jags 12-7. I think they have a really good defensive coordinator. They have a quarterback who just does enough. I just don't know if that is enough with how good the 4 teams that I mentioned earlier, with how well those teams are playing. I don't know that the Vikings formula will be enough to put them over the edge, per se. I don't have confidence in the Packers. I think the Packers are still trying to figure out who they are, and their quarterback has been in and out with health issues, so I don't think he's going to lead them to the promised land this year. Jordan Love is who I'm referring to. I don't think he's going to be the guy to do it. I don't think the Eagles or the Commanders are there yet. The Commanders had a tough loss to the Steelers on Sunday. You know, they obviously have a really fun offense. Shout out Cliff Kingsbury. He's the OC for the Commanders. He's done a tremendous job with rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels. The Eagles, I still just, I don't trust them. I don't trust Nick Sirianni. I think they have flaws, and they have too many flaws to overcome. The 4 teams that I mentioned, I just don't see, they're in their own tier, and I just don't see, the Chargers. I don't see the Falcons. I don't see the Steelers. I don't see any of those teams overcoming those 4 teams, because all the teams that aren't Detroit, Baltimore, Kansas City, and Buffalo, they just have flaws, or they just have negatives about them that I don't trust and I don't like, and especially when you compare them to the 4 teams that I've mentioned. So I could be completely wrong. Maybe I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but right now it's at least the NFC is the Detroit Lions' to lose. It's theirs to lose. They have played an outstanding brand of football. They can beat you in so many different ways. They do not give up. They fight till the very end. I know they're 8-1. That felt like a lot of energy that they put out on Sunday night, so I'm curious to see how well they do against the Jags at home this week. But yeah, that is the Lions conference to lose, is the NFC. The AFC, and I know how people are talking about the Chiefs. They're 9-0, but they have the worst winning margin or points differential. They have the worst points differential of an undefeated team at, I think they only have a plus 54, and they're 9-0 this year. I trust the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are fine. They are the Chiefs. Like, it's kind of like the Brady Patriots, where you just have to respect them until they just don't exist anymore. That's kind of with Mahomes and the Chiefs, is that you have to respect them, and they are going to be there. They are who they are until they aren't. Now, I would say for the Bills, they have found a formula that works with no Diggs. They have a great quarterback. The defense is playing well. It's just kind of with the Lions too. Do you want to trust them in the playoffs? That's my biggest thing with the Bills. And knowing that they will probably at some point have to go through Kansas City or Baltimore, I'm curious to see how that goes. They already lost to Baltimore this year. That game was interesting. That was a Sunday night game that I felt like could have gone different way, a bunch of different ways. But that game worked out for Baltimore because Baltimore got out in front. They got ahead, and they played like they were ahead with running the ball, some play action. That's how Baltimore wins, is by getting ahead and staying ahead. Baltimore is not a team that plays well coming back from behind. Sure, they can get into a shootout with Cincinnati like we saw on Thursday, but if Baltimore gets down multiple scores, that's a problem. That's a concern, and we've seen it in the past, and I don't know that this is the team that can, change that theory, that can prove that theory wrong. So that is my one default with Baltimore. Their one defect that I don't like. It's a defect, not a default. That's the one thing I don't like about them. Maybe this year it's different. I don't know, but they're still the Ravens. They have a really strong formula with Lamar, Derrick Henry. I love both of those guys. They have a great defense. If they can get ahead in any game, look out. So I guess going back to the Chiefs, they have a quarterback. They have a coach. Their defense is arguably the best it's been while Mahomes has been the starting quarterback. I just can't see how somebody other than the four teams, Detroit, Kansas City, Baltimore, or Buffalo, I don't see how it isn't one of these four teams. I don't see how the field is beating any one of these four teams for the Super Bowl. All these teams have outstanding quarterback play. They have outstanding defenses. They are coached well. They have some experience in getting to the playoffs. And while Kansas City is the one that has won it all and has the most success in the playoffs among those four teams, Detroit went to the NFC Championship game last year. Buffalo has been to... I can't remember if they've been to an NFC Championship game, but they have been here. They've been to the playoffs before and lost. Baltimore was in the NFC or AFC Championship game last year. These teams, I think, have the mold and the characteristics of a Super Bowl winning team. I can't decide before those four teams, and I refuse to believe that Pittsburgh is better than any of those three AFC teams. I refuse to believe that San Francisco is better than Detroit or the Packers or the Eagles or the Commanders or the Falcons, any one of those. I don't see it. I don't believe it. So that's my NFL rant. Big takeaway heading into, I think we're into week 11 or whatever it is. Other NFL news: the Bears, they fired their offensive coordinator Shane Waldron. It's not going well for Chicago. I'm going to talk about them, I think, this week in my my NFL Substack. But yeah, the Bears, no bueno, not good. They are now 4-5. They looked okay for a bit, and they haven't scored a touchdown in like the last two games. So they had to do something. I don't know that. I would think they would fire Eberflus, their head coach, at some point. They are probably not a team that will do that mid-season. They might just do that in the off-season, and good luck with that. Maybe you need to bench Caleb for a bit. Not let him get sacked 9 times in the game. That might help his development instead of hurting it. I don't know. The Bears have a lot of questions still. There's going to be more questions than answers when it comes to the Bears for the next little bit. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about them in the written piece this week. So stay tuned for that. Also, my Seahawks are back in action this week. It's funny. Seahawks are back this week, and I was like, oh, good. My team, is going to be back, and I wonder who they're playing. And check the schedule, and they're at San Francisco this week. So that's cool. That's a great way to come off the bye, is to go against the fucking Niners. Can't wait to fucking hate watch that. But maybe my team will win. Who knows? Anyways, we're going to take another break. I got some NBA stuff I'm going to talk about here. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. All right. Welcome back. Starting tonight as well, on Tuesday, there is NBA Cup games. Now, the NBA Cup is what they call the in-season tournament, which you get a cup for it. I guess there's a different trophy for it. And if you don't know, the NBA in-season tournament is kind of like the NBA's Champions League, or their non-conference college basketball tournaments, like when they do Battle for Atlantis and whatever. That's essentially what this is. So games start tonight. There's a couple games I'll save for later. But these games should all like start during the day. They need to stagger these times like they do with the March Madness games, like when they have like Cal playing Hawaii at 11 a.m. or at 9 a.m. when like Dayton is playing Pittsburgh and it's in Louisville for some reason. That's what the NBA should do. They don't need to have all of these games starting at like 7 o'clock or whatever. You can have. I'm gonna use like the Hornets and the Magic because like I'm not gonna watch that tonight. I'm not interested. But if it was on at like noon, I'd watch it. I'd be interested. I'd care. I would tune in enough to like, act like I want to know more about the NBA Cup. But I don't know. I don't even know who's on the Hornets. I think LaMelo Ball. I think one of the Ball brothers is still on the Hornets. But like the Magic are supposed to be good. And I guess there's also something to be said for trying to protect the local TV networks and all that sort of stuff, and trying to do all that sort of. I don't know, just stagger the games. Put them on during the day. Get some national networks involved. Put this on, I don't know, ESPN and enough with the get up stuff and all that crap. Put actual real games instead of shows or just talk sports, talk radio. That's my hot take there. I don't know who's going to win the in-season tournament, the NBA Cup. I don't know. I think the Lakers won it last year. The Lakers beat the Pacers, which like it is definitely not. How do I put this? Definitely not how the playoffs worked. So I do appreciate the randomness sometimes of just like, hey, who's going to be in like the NBA Cup Finals? You're going to have the Heat and the Timberwolves. And it's like, cool. The sickos like me will enjoy it, but the rest of the world won't. And I think last year they played the finals in Vegas, I'm pretty sure, at T-Mobile Arena. Even though I thought that was going to be one of those games that was at the Sphere. I thought they were doing that as a Sphere thing, but they just had like stuff on the Sphere because they were in Vegas. Yeah, so like the local NBA cities host the group stage and quarterfinals, and then the Las Vegas Strip will host the semifinals and the championship game. Which, like, I think you should play that at the Sphere. Don't play that at T-Mobile. Play that at the Sphere. That's how you really get interest. That's how you really would get people caring and watching. Who cares about T-Mobile Arena? Cool, it's in Vegas. Put it at the Sphere. Make it an attraction. Make it exciting. That's my NBA Cup take. You can watch, who is it? Hawks Celtics tonight. Dominique Wilkins is probably going to put up 32 in a losing effort to the Celtics. I don't want college basketball. I want NBA. Heat Pistons. Sure. Hornets Magic. That's on at 7 Eastern. That should be on at noon. Knicks Sixers is like it's a national game tonight, which like I'm sure they when they were making the national schedule they thought that would be good because it's a playoff rematch from last year, but those two have a combined 6 wins this year. Knicks Sixers, not great. Raptors Bucks, terrible. Suns Jazz, the Jazz stink. Mavericks Warriors. I think that's a Klay Thompson revenge game. I think Klay Thompson's back in San Francisco, so that'll be interesting. Timberwolves Trailblazers, sure. I don't know. Just put some of these games on in the day and make it like March Madness. Get people talking about it all day, and that's what this is for. That's why we're here. Speaking of sicko games, I'll end the show, end the episode with my Tuesday sicko mode watch. I'm going to make this a segment now, I think. Fuck it, who cares? If you don't know, I am a sicko. I am a degenerate. I'm a maniac. I live for all sort of sicko sports. I did a sicko mode watch last week. I think I'm just going to make it a regular thing. Tonight you can watch Raptors Bucks. Both teams are 2-8. The Raptors, I've heard about the Raptors is that like they are the best tanking team ever. Like they are the most watchable tank team ever, which is cool. Like I think they have some dudes. I did a little preview on them. Like the Scotty Barnes, Grady Dick, Anobi, Quickly. Like, they have some dudes. I don't know if they're actually going to be, like, good at all, or if they're just, like, playing for a lottery pick and they're competitive along the way. Kind of like the Calgary Flames, I guess. The Raptors might be the Calgary Flames of basketball. The Bucks are bad, and I think they're going to trade Giannis at some point because it sure feels like it. Everybody's talking about that. Also, Sicko Mode watch tonight. College basketball. I am getting heavily invested in the college basketball season, I think, which is cool. If you live in Philadelphia, which I do not, but Penn, I don't know, the University of Pennsylvania, the Ivy League school, they are at Lafayette, which is also a Philadelphia school, apparently. That is a game, non-conference. It's just a Philadelphia specialty, I guess. If you've been following along to, like, my football Substack, like, you know that I am a sucker for an in-state game. Like, I am a sucker for who is it? Was it Tulane and Louisiana Lafayette? Like, I am a sucker for that sort of stuff. I will watch that with no rooting interest whatsoever, just to say that I watched Tulane play Louisiana Lafayette. So, like, tonight, Penn is playing Lafayette. I have no idea where Lafayette is in relation to Philadelphia, but yeah, there's a good Philadelphia basketball game going on, and it's not the 76ers. That's at 7 p.m. Eastern, so you can watch that. Maybe I'll have to do a follow-up. And then hockey tonight, you have the Blue Jackets and the Kraken. Blue Jackets are now last in what division are they in? The Metro in points. Kraken, not doing good. The Kraken got Daniel Sprong, but they're bringing him back. They traded him for future considerations. And Sprong, I don't think he's got to Seattle yet. I think he's still waiting on visa issues, which, like, it's kind of funny considering how, close Vancouver and Seattle are. Like, they're 2 hours away. It's like, going from Toronto to Detroit, I guess, almost, of just, like, it'd be one thing if it's like from Vancouver to Florida, but because it's, like, such a small distance, it's like, how can this be an issue? How is this a problem? Anyways, Blue Jackets, Kraken, that's a late game tonight. I might watch a little bit of that if I'm not watching Flames Canucks. So there's your 3-game Tuesday Sicko Mode watch. I'll share more on Friday when I do another Sicko Mode watch, but even for weekend games. So thank you very much for listening. That's the show. It's been great. Glad we got to, rant and talk. I will be back on Friday with a new episode for you. Again, thank you for listening. Greatly appreciated. You can check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, watch us on YouTube, basically wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the video. All your support's greatly appreciated. Check out my Substacks this week. I got another football one on Thursday, hockey one on Saturday. So, a lot of good stuff coming your way. Thank you again for all your support. It's greatly appreciated. We'll be back again soon. Peace.